And you are live.
Okay, welcome back. We're continuing our discussion on the Budget Adjustment Act. We have one more short amount of testimony on that from Hunger Free Vermont. We have Keely Agan from Hunger Free Vermont to give us an update on, I assume, universal school meals and anything else, I guess. The floor is yours. Go right ahead. And welcome to the House Education Committee.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me all right?
Perfectly. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. My name is Keely Agan, and I am the Early Childhood Nutrition Manager at Hunger Free Vermont. And I'm actually here today to talk about an opportunity for the Child and Adult Care Food Program, although universal school meals is a hot topic, and I'm happy to direct any questions to my colleagues about that. So thank you so much for the opportunity to testify to the committee about appropriating funds to the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP sponsor organizations in Vermont. So Let's Grow Kids submitted a memo to your committee outlining their concerns about the administration's proposals to sweep $26 million in total funding from the general fund and the Child Care Contribution Special Fund. They, at Let's Grow Kids, have recommended to the Appropriations Committee that the funding be preserved for childcare purposes, which we agree with at Hunger Free Vermont. Let's Grow Kids also provided the Appropriations Committee with a list of funding opportunities to strengthen Act 76, which is the 2023 Child Care Bill, and I'm here to discuss one of the potential uses of funding that they have identified. Hunger Free Vermont is specifically supportive of the Let's Grow Kids recommendation to appropriate $182,000 to the Agency of Education to distribute among the Child and Adult Care Food Program sponsor organizations here in Vermont as an incentive to participate as a sponsor organization. Family child care homes in Vermont, which make up a really incredible portion of child care programs in the state, are not able to participate in the CACFP, the Federal Child Food Program, without a CACFP sponsor. And we are asking the House Education Committee to include this request in your budget adjustment memo. The CACFP is the most equitable way to provide nutritious meals and snacks in early childhood education settings because all children receive the same developmentally appropriate nutrition. When an early childhood education program relies on families to pack meals and snacks, different families have different capacities, and therefore some children may be accessing more nutritious meals than others and are therefore able to access better learning. In order to participate in the CACFP, like I said before, those family child care homes are required to work with a CACFP sponsor organization. In Vermont, those organizations are typically a community action organization or a parent-child center. Without CACFP sponsor organizations, family child care homes who serve over 3,500 children in Vermont are not eligible for the Child and Adult Care Food Program. In 2024, Vermont went from having 5 CACFP sponsoring organizations to only 3 CACFP sponsoring organizations. 2 of those organizations dropped in 2024 because of the financial and capacity burden of being a CACFP sponsor organization. The 3 CACFP sponsor organizations in Vermont currently are Brock Community Action Agency, Capstone Community Action, and the Winston Prouty Center for Child and Family Development. These 3 organizations are responsible for admitting the CACFP to family child care homes across the entire state. And at this time, the administrative payments that they receive from the federal government for participating in the program do not adequately cover the cost of being a sponsoring organization. On top of administrative funding challenges, now organizations are struggling to manage capacity as they have to physically cover larger portions of the state as well, since there are only 3 of them. Sponsors have to visit participating family child care homes several times a year as per the federal guidelines of the Child Nutrition Program, making the capacity challenge even more difficult. Thank you again for your consideration of our request to appropriate $182,000 to the Agency of Education to distribute among the Child and Adult Care Food Program sponsor organizations as an incentive to participate as a sponsor of the CACFP for family child care home providers. Without CACFP sponsors, many children in Vermont would not be able to access nutrition in their early childhood education programs. You can have the most qualified program directors and early childhood educators, but if children are showing up hungry or not showing up because they're hungry, they're not able to access learning and development. Please recommend to the Appropriations Committee that they use the available general funds for childcare to support this important program that helps small home-based family childcare programs and helps ensure that children have access to nutritious meals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to restate what you said, and you can correct me where I'm wrong. This program largely is taken up by home providers. And that the idea here is to broaden the sponsoring organizations to include the Agency of Education, and that the money would generally be flowing to home child care providers. Is that pretty accurate?
The mechanism is, so the way that the federal program works, the Agency of Education is the state sponsor of the food program, but there have to be sponsoring organizations that administer the program at the family child care home level. So the money has to flow through the Agency of Education, but it would go to these sponsoring organizations. Because without sponsoring organizations, the family child care homes can't even participate if they don't have a sponsoring organization. So that's where the money would flow.
Thank you. So the Agency of Education really doesn't have much to do with child care, especially home care.
Yeah, the Agency of Education is the sponsor for center-based programs. And then the sponsoring organizations are for those family child care homes.
Is that you're telling me that's the way it currently works, or that's what you're proposing?
That's the way it currently works.
Okay, all right, so, all right, interesting.
Yes, it is.
We're gonna get a little more information on this, to learn a little bit more. It's a question over here.
Yeah, I'm struggling to follow all of it. Does it essentially mean that if we don't have this funding to be able to flow to these sponsoring organizations, we've got centers and programs throughout the state that would lose some federal funding. And we're going to be accessing fewer federal dollars for food programs?
That's absolutely a part of it. And at the base level, if we don't have sponsoring organizations, or if we don't have enough sponsoring organizations, the family child care homes aren't even eligible to serve meals. So they can't access those federal dollars or that federal meal program.
So this is at its heart a home child care issue. In other words,
Yes.
child care centers have the capacity to get the funding they need through the Agency of Education.
Yes.
Previously to this request, homes, there are just fewer agencies to funnel that money to home child care settings. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 2 programs dropped. We only had 5, which was still a big struggle. And then 2 programs had to drop the sponsoring responsibilities last year because the funding that they were receiving didn't cover the cost for them.
You pointed out some of the responsibilities that go with this money, such as visiting the child care homes. Who then would be responsible for that?
It would be the sponsoring organizations, and hopefully our intention is that we are able to enroll more sponsoring organizations in the future, so that they don't have to cover as big of a geographic space as they're having to do now with only 3 of them statewide.
But that responsibility would not fall upon the Agency of Education.
No.
Okay, this may be something that's a little, even though the number is pretty small, this may be something a little complicated for us to meet our deadline. However, the BAA obviously goes through a long, circuitous process, and there'll be other opportunities. But we'll give it some thought. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we have a handout resource, and we're also always available for any questions if anyone's ever interested in learning more. It's those federal programs, they're very complicated.
Yeah, sure. Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Team, why don't we, break for 5 minutes while we squeeze some more chairs in, and we'll be ready